I'm going to show you how to take a RS-918 HF SDR transceiver apart. Now the RS-918 is a clone of the MCHF and can be bought on eBay and AliExpress and those sort of places. Now the comes with a little, well, this one came with a little tiny Allen key which is used to remove the tuning knob off there. The rest of the knobs just pull off. It's only that one that needs it. So what I'm going to start by doing is going in the back and just unscrewing these two kind of thumb screws here, and that'll just release this stand thing that mine's got on it. Some of the radios don't seem to have this stand. Mine has though, and it's quite useful. It's got some perforations in there for the speaker. Anyway, so get rid of that to start with. Don't need that. And just when reassembling, it's a good thing to bear in mind that it goes into the screw holes here at the top. So when you reassemble it, don't put a screw back in there, because otherwise you'll wonder how you've run out of screws, basically. Okay, so the whole thing basically disassembles from the front. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull these knobs off here, just like that. Okay, so let's get those three out of the way, and this one here, let's stick the Allen key in and just loosen that off and get rid of that one. Okay, so we don't need the Allen key anymore after we've done that. Now on mine, these were initially just hand tight, but since I've already disassembled this once, they're a bit tighter now, so I did them up with a small pair of pliers. So I don't think you want to over tighten these things. Just just make them tight enough when you reassemble. So just gonna take these off. Now all of the nuts on these are pretty much the same, so you don't really need to worry about it too much. And I think the washers are the same as well. So you can just quickly undo them all, and that one as well. Yeah, is that coming undone slowly? Maybe. No, it still needs a bit more undoing. Can't know if I actually undid that with the pliers. So need to be a little bit careful because you can't scratch the front panel, which is some sort of, I don't know if it's spray painted or what it is. Anyway, so get rid of the nuts and just shake off the washers and the nuts, and that's that. Okay, then so once those are off, the next thing is to take out, you need to unscrew the BNC, sorry you can't see this in camera shot, you need to unscrew the BNC connector off the end of there. So take that off, there's no washer on mine on there, and then you need to unscrew the ends. So just get a regular screwdriver. Now as far as I can tell, there's only two sizes of screws. Most of the screws are, I don't know, about 3-4 millimeters long, and that includes the end caps here. Hopefully, there we go, should be able to take that off. Okay, so I'm just going to take this out of the way now. Sorry, get my hands in the way here. Anyway, so I've just unscrewed that. Seem to have lost it. Oh, I've got a screw. It's on the screwdriver. Anyway, so, but on the whole, you don't really need to worry too much about keeping the screws, you know, for the end caps, because these screws on the bottom, they're the same size. The only ones which are different is these screws here, and some of these are for the power output. I don't know what these other two are. Maybe they're voltage regulators. Sorry, these two down this other end. But these ones are longer. These four, the rest of them are the same size. So anyway, so then undo the screws on the end cap here, the other end. Okay, oops. Now, having a magnetic screwdriver is sometimes handy and sometimes not so handy. So, okay, let's take that one off. Doing this one-handed for the camera. It's difficult. Okay, there we go. Let's get that screw off there. Okay, so that's that end cap off there. You don't really need to worry about, you know, they only go on one way, so it's pretty easy. Okay, so once you've done that, next thing you're going to need to do is to unscrew this top plate. There's like a 2 or 3 mil metal plate on the top. Now 2 of the screws in the middle here, those 2 screws there, they're the short ones. Now the other ones are the long ones. So as long as you can remember those ones are the long screws, then you're not going to have any problems. Okay, so now I'm not going to show you the reassembly of this. It's kind of pointless really, but one thing I've noticed that when you reassemble it, sometimes these don't key in. Sorry, you can't see that screw. Sometimes these don't key in directly into the transistors or FETs, and you have to put something in behind to push the transistor back into place. But that's the only thing I've seen when reassembling that. Okay, so once the top's off, I recommend you just get rid of all the remaining screws in the top here, because you're eventually going to take the back off anyway. So we'll just go for it and just take absolutely all the screws out. Okay, here we go. I guess if you had an electric screwdriver thing, you'd do it a little bit faster, but it's not too bad this way. Oh, a bit more. Okay, one more. Also, I've put it on my kind of cutting mat thing that I use. It's best to keep this clean and make sure you don't have any nasty sharp things on it. But I had a bit of solder there, so otherwise you're going to scratch the case if you're not careful. I often rest things on a towel when I'm doing this. Okay, so that's the top. Well, yeah, I guess, and there's these 6 at the bottom. What these actually do is, whoops, that's not so good, is there's a metal plate on the inside, and it effectively holds the top to the bottom of the or the front to the back of the radio together. And you'll see that in a minute, because it's a little bit tricky reassembling them. You have to kind of loosen the board. Okay, anyway, so that's kind of got all of the screws at least in the front section. I've not done the back section now. I can do that in a minute. Anyway, so, and then once you've done that, probably the best thing to do is have it face down and just release it, just pull it apart, because then what you get is the button, the rubber bits for the button, they can kind of stay in that part of it. So these bits are the rubber bits for the buttons. They'll probably fall out. It's not a big deal, but anyway, you can kind of leave them face down, and they're there. I can't show you the other way up, so it's all going to fall out. Anyway, so put off to one side. Right, so there's the front of the RS-918. Now, you probably can't see it, but it's still got all the silk screen. I don't know if this camera's going to focus. Maybe not. So you can see that it seems to be this one seems to be a direct clone of the MCHF. I think version revision 0.6. So and to be honest, the build quality of this one's been pretty good. Anyway, so the next thing you do is you need to take off the top board, and that's actually held in by 4 slightly smaller screws here in the corners. So just take those out, and again they're all the same size, so just these 4 silver ones in the corners. So take this one out. Okay, and then this one over here. Yeah, that's that one out, and finally this one here. Right, so once you've released all 4, oh, by the way, this seems to have an option here for, I think this is ESP8266, which is interesting. Anyway, so the board actually, it's got a socket, a long socket down one side, so you just have to kind of gently pull it upwards to release the long socket. I'll show you in a second. Just kind of carefully. It's on this edge. It's on that edge there. So there we go. Okay, yeah, sorry, I should have pointed out as well the so when you release it, let's put it down here. Okay, so there's the main board from the underside. There's the STM32 F4 CPU. Interestingly, this one appears to have all of the kind of optional things that I've seen people say that some of them don't have. It's got a battery holder here. Doesn't have a battery in it, and I actually don't have a button cell even in my spares box. I've tried a few different ones that I've got, but I didn't have one that actually fitted in there. But I guess you could fit that the battery there. The build quality for this one is very good. I don't have any problems with any of the build quality on this. The only thing that I have done is, because I've had this apart once before, I did put a bit of extra solder on some of these. Maybe I missed a bit there actually. On some of these, I can zoom in a bit, maybe you can take a bit of a better look at it. But it feels like focusing. No, okay, not going to focus, so we won't be doing that. Anyway, but yeah, but the build quality was actually fine. Now I'm going to leave these wires down this end. These are the speaker connections. Now I'm just going to leave these here. I'm not going to unsolder them. If you really wanted to take the thing completely apart, you're probably going to have to unsolder those. But if you just want to generally assemble it, for example, to get at the programming port for the SWD port, debug port for the STM32, you're going to need to get to there, and also the jump link if you're going to do anything that sort of stuff as well. You're going to probably need to put a jumper on the jump link or something there anyway. Now, next phase of the disassembly is, I'm just going to shift this round so put it in the camera shot. Okay, there's 4 posts here. Now these posts, well, they were hand tight, and actually I've not done them that tight myself. So there's these little, I can hardly see them, little brass posts. So you need to, now some of these I did tighten up with a pair of pliers, so I'm just going to sort of loosen them by hand to start with. Because they were, when I first took this apart, they were all just hand tight. So if you can see that one. Anyway, so I'm going to take that post out, and this post out as well. Okay, right. So that's that. Now this is just a shield board. Now I think it's just a PCB. I presume it's got copper on both sides. It kind of looks like that, but anyway, it's just yeah, it's just a PCB, shield PCB. It'll only go back in one way, basically. I don't think it's possible to get it in around the other way because of these relays here. I think they're relays. So anyway, right, put off to one side. So we're now down to the back board. This is the RF board, and again, what it's got is more of those little posts. So again, you need to kind of loosen them a little bit to start with. Mine are really loose. Now the thing with these is that I don't know what the original design planned to use, but they've got regular screws here, so crosshead screws. So you actually kind of the assembly and holding the screw in place, well, it's kind of a little bit tricky, but anyway, so I'm just going to take these 4 posts out. Now these posts are not as tall as the posts in the other half. Oops, there's that screw falling down inside. That's okay. So I'm just going to release this post, and the screw will drop inside. Oh, just into the back, it's not going to do any harm. Okay, so this is a smaller post, so you do need to bear in mind that these posts are different sizes, different heights. Okay, that's 3 out of the 4, and then just the last one here. Oops. Yep, there we go. And I've got my finger in underneath to stop the screw, just to hold the screw temporarily. Okay, right, so that's it. Now, these side bits, quite interesting, because when I took it apart, I deliberately only took 1 set of screws out, and I've left the other set of screws in, actually it's this side here. So those are just the these little screws that probably can hardly see them. Come up from underneath, basically. So now there's all 4 of those. So I'll just put 2 of those off to one side. Right, now I didn't release these plates, and I'll show you these plates. Well, I released one but not the other one, so I'm just going to, but I recommend you just, if you're going to take the whole thing apart, just release them before you take, you know, just take all the screws out. Right, take off to one side. Oops, there's that one. Okay, there's that one. Okay, right, so that's those plates out of the way. Now, and then it's kind of weird, they kind of spring out with these plates then. And when you reassemble it, it's kind of a bit of a kind of squeeze fit. You have to kind of push the plates in like that. Now you need to be wary of which of these plates, and I'll take a plate out and show you. So these plates kind of look like this. So they've got like a captive nut thing on one side. So you do need to remember which way round they go. I mean, you can figure it out if you get them wrong, but you know, kind of that one went in there like that. So you might want to kind of place it, you know, down and to the left, and same thing with this other one, put him down like that to know where you are with those things. Right, so then that allows you to lift out the RF board, and again, you know, it kind of seems okay to me. I don't have any problems with the construction of the RF board. One thing I've noticed is there's no heatsink compound on these power devices. Some of them are PA, I think some of them are voltage regulators. On this side, probably voltage regulators. This is PA, RF PA, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, maybe some heatsink compound wouldn't go amiss. And the other thing is, when you put it back together, I tend to find the screws tend to kind of push these things unless they're quite rightly aligned. So you need to make sure, you might need to push in from behind these when you're reassembling, otherwise you can't get the screw in. Because these things have got like captive nuts on them as well. I don't know how they've done that, stuck them on or something, I don't know. Anyway, maybe they're part of the device. So that's it really. I mean, once you're down to there, you're just down to the speaker, which I haven't undone. I guess there's a couple of nuts on the back of there. You could just unscrew the speaker, but I'm not going to take it any further apart than this anyway. This was really just for the purposes of the video, just to show you how quick it is to take the thing apart. Just briefly, I suppose, just briefly reassembling, so I never needed to take the RF board out myself anyway. So to reassemble this, the trick is that you need to put these things kind of in at the same time. So you need to kind of put that one in there like that, and then you need to kind of hold that, and so that's a bit tricky really. It's kind of jammed, but it's not really. So lift that one up, and I think that one was around that way. Well, we'll see in a minute because it won't work otherwise. So yeah, it's kind of just a bit tricky to get these plates back in. Especially with the power devices there as well. So I don't know if I've got that right. Oh no, I've lost the other plate inside, so take that one back out, try it again. And it's kind of a bit of a squeeze. It's they kind of really seem to sandwich the PCB in place, which is yeah, quite surprising, but that's, there we go, it just kind of, when you get it all right, there we go. Okay, so when you get it all right, that kind of fits in kind of quite snugly really with these plates, but they do kind of spring, and then probably the best thing to do at this point is to start to fit, whoops, before it does that again, springs out again, is to fit the screws back into there before you start reassembling. Then when you reassemble, the next stage is to get these screws, the longer ones that come in from underneath, and hold them from underneath, put the short kind of posts on top of them, and then do those up. You can kind of get a screwdriver in behind. It's a little bit tricky to hold these things, but I think it's tight enough. I mean, if you were operating this in a really in an environment where you're shaking the thing around, you might want to put some sort of glue on there, you know, some sort of Loctite or something. But anyway, there you go. So that's basically how to disassemble the MCHF clone, which is the RS-918, and yeah, just starting to reassemble it, but I'm not going to yeah, I don't think you really need to see how to just screw everything back together and then you know, pop it all back together again.